Hi, boys and girls. It's Mrs. Tento. I'm wanting to teach you about some things that are springtime and things that we think about in the spring. One of the things I think about are the ponds behind my house. They're not directly behind my house, but about a block away from my home. There are wonderful networks of ponds um, called Summer Lake, and they have parks and they have all kinds of things, but it's the pond I'm thinking about and how interesting the ponds are. When you think about ponds, what comes to mind to you? Think for a minute. Think about all the things around a pond. I bet you thought about one of the things that I think about. I think about frogs, and I think about ducklings, and I think about beavers, and I think about a lot of other things. I am going to read to you the story that tells you by Gail Gibbons about frogs and where they live and what's around them. Let's go ahead and start. It is springtime at a pond. A jelly-like cluster of eggs floats among the water weeds at the pond's surface. These eggs are the beginning of frogs. And here's a picture. A breeze ripples the surface. The floating clump of eggs is called frog spawn. Frogs lay their eggs in water or wet places. Otherwise, the eggs would dry up and die. These eggs do not have shells. They are inside jelly-like coverings. As they float, the jelly lets the sun's warmth come through to the egg inside. Not all of the eggs will survive. Most of the time, the large, slimy mass of eggs is too slippery and too big to be eaten. This is nature's way of protecting them. But some of the smaller clusters of eggs will be eaten by creatures living in or near the pond. The dark centers of the eggs slowly grow into frog embryos. The embryos grow until they look like small tadpoles. Tadpoles are frog babies. As they grow, they feed off their own egg yolk. Excuse me. The tadpoles grow until they're big enough to break free into the water. It can take from 3 days to 3 weeks for this to happen, depending on what kind of frogs they will become. Look at all those little bitty tadpoles. One by one, the tadpoles will hatch from their eggs. They each have a head, tail, and body. The tadpoles wiggle their tails to swim. And you see all those. The tadpoles breathe by getting air from the water through feathery gills, outside gills. Excuse me. As they swim, they eat very small plants that stick to larger water plants. These tiny plants are called algae. 1 week later, the tadpoles look different. They are bigger, their gills begin to shrink. A flap of skin grows slowly over them. The tadpoles' mouths become hard with tiny teeth in their upper jaws. Now the tadpoles are 1 month old. Their outside gills have disappeared. New gills inside the tadpoles take oxygen from the water. Their tails are wider for stronger swimming. Something wonderful begins to happen. At the base of their tails, bulges appear. This is where their hind frog legs are growing. And can you see right on this top froggy tadpole, there is a bulge for legs. At 2 months old, the tadpoles dart about the pond as they eat. They are still vegetarians. Vegetarians only eat plant life. The tadpoles get bigger. Now they have hind legs. Behind their heads bulges up here where their front legs are growing. Their tails become smaller and the tadpoles' gills inside their bodies are gone. They have grown lungs to use for breathing. Now and then they wiggle to the surface to breathe the air. Oh, what a transformation. The tadpoles are about 3 months old. Again, they look different. They have front legs. Their tails are even smaller, and they've shed their tadpole skin and lips. At last, they have the wide mouth of frogs. Can you see that? The tadpoles have become tiny frogs. They climb out of the pond and onto the land. Their tails will become smaller and smaller until they finally disappear. The tiny frogs begin to eat insects and worms. They aren't vegetarian anymore. And I want you to look carefully at the pond and look around at the plant life. Do you see the cattails that look like sausages on a stick? And the lilies and lily pads and grasses. Frogs are called amphibians. The word amphibian comes from a Greek word that means two lives. An amphibian can live on land or in water. Frogs are cold-blooded. That means their inside body temperatures are about the same as outside temperature. During the next few years, the tiny frogs will grow to be mature frogs. Then they will be able to make their own frog spawn, and there will be new baby frogs. Frogs have many body parts. And it shows here that they have webbed feet. They have 4 toes on the front, 5 toes on the back. They have a tongue is attached to the front of the mouth, and it is sticky. What do you think he's trying to catch? That old bee. They have skin that's speckly, kind of a camouflage, I think. And look at there's their big eyes. They have teeth. They have an ear back here. Isn't that interesting? See, I'll put it nice and close for you to see the other parts. Okay. They even have nostril, I think. Where are those nostrils? Right over here. Wow, that little dot. There they are. Frogs don't hunt for food. Their big eyes are on top of their heads so they can see all the way around. They stay very still. When something flies or crawls nearby, their long, sticky tongues dart out to catch it. They swallow their food whole. My. Frogs that swim use their powerful hind legs and webbed feet to push them through the water. Frogs have 2 sets of eyelids. One set is transparent so they can see through them. When frogs dive, they close those eyelids to protect their eyes. On land, the frogs hop about. They use their very strong hind legs to leap. Most frogs can jump 10 times their body length. They are wonderful jumpers. Frogs have enemies. Foxes, snakes, rats, birds, and other creatures eat frogs when they can catch them. A sudden leap is a quick escape from danger. For protection, some frogs have skin glands that make them taste bad or make them poisonous. Sometimes their skin color hides them from enemies. This is called camouflage. And I know that my cousin's dog used to like to eat frogs. Yuck. Croak. Frogs make different sounds. Often male frogs call their mates this way. They pull air into their air sacs at their throats. The air sacs expand to look like bubbles. When the frogs force the air out of their air sacs and into their lungs, the air passes over their vocal cords, which vibrate to make sounds. They make different calls that mean different things. Sometimes frogs are very loud. And do you see how that froggy has that big balloon up front? That's where it gathers the air and then it forces it out. Where it is cold in the water, the frogs go to sleep. Oh, when it is cold in the winter, the frogs go to sleep. Sometimes they find sheltered hollows. Often, frogs dig into the muddy bottom of a pond. All winter, they sleep covered with mud. They stay completely motionless. This is called hibernation. And if you look at these two circles here and here, you'll see the frogs hibernating. In the springtime, when the sun begins to warm up the ground and the pond's water, the frogs come out of hibernation. They are healthy and hungry. Wow, it looks like a day at the pool. People who know all about frogs are called herpetologists. They spend lots of time watching and waiting to learn more about these animals. Experts tell us there are more than 3,800 different kinds of frogs. And here's a herpetologist studying the frog life of the pond. Frogs play an important role in the balance of nature. They keep insects under control by eating so many of them. Also, frogs are food for other animals. Frogs are many different sizes, shapes, and colors. It's fun to learn about them. You can be a frog expert too. Okay, here comes the difference between a frog and a toad. A frog has a narrow body with ridges down the back, large ear membranes. They mostly live in or near the water, small teeth on the upper jaw. They have smooth, moist skin and long legs. Clumps of eggs grow in the water when it's a frog. Now, you want to know the difference between a frog and a toad? A toad has a plump body, thick, dry, bumpy skin, small, round ear membranes, ridges on its head, lives on land, has no teeth, short legs, short leaps, moves slowly, and strings of eggs. Wow, that's a lot of information. Boys and girls, I'll be teaching you how to make a frog on another video when we learn how to make frogs and ducks. And there you go, our life of the frog at the pond. Have a nice day, boys and